intimacy expectations. There was a man and a woman, and she looked forward to this beautiful day, wedding day, and a life of togetherness and a life of romance and a life of bliss. There was this man, and he looked forward to this wedding day, to a prolonged heaven of intimacy. But that was 30 years earlier. And on that specific day, they were sitting opposite me, opposite my consulting room, and they were giving it to each other. And it was so harsh that it was on the tip of my tongue to tell them, you know, you can do this at home for free. Here, you pay for it. And the problem is they did it at home for free, but it costed them. And they wondered, must we continue? What is this all about? What is this conversation? Is this about marriage counseling? Is this about decision-making counseling? Is this about divorce counseling? Actually, one of them gave up. And the whole thing was, they were annoyed with themselves by the stupid things they actually did themselves to compromise this whole thing. I was wondering, how on earth can I bring reconciliation to this situation? And I did reverse engineering. And I sat, and it enticed me to do reverse engineering. I asked myself, 30 years down the line, what are the things of over many years of not being a corporate consultant and doing diversity things, but also hardcore marriage counseling? And I realized there were actually 12 things that were coming constantly recurring on the table. And I thought, like a good consultant, let's work this thing into a sort of a plan. Because there was one thing in these 12 things that was the common and the golden thread. And that was, it was unfulfilled expectations on these 12 things. Unfulfilled expectations on the question of fidelity, on faith, on questions of money, on the questions of sex, on the questions of communication, on the questions of where does the in-laws or the outlaws, as some people call them, fit in. Unfulfilled expectations on who's allowed in and who's allowed out, on helping each other to achieve our life goals or fighting over the resources. And I thought, but how can I put these 12 things into sort of a structure to communicate it to people? And I realized it all begins at a wedding day with the joining of two hands and actually the giving of two rings. And then I thought, now let's make a nice plan here. And there are 10 fingers and 2 hands and 2 rings. And if we want to make this teachable, let's call this plan the 10thing 2-ring plan for a happy marriage. Because if you can take these expectations and instead of just not looking at them, clarifying them beforehand, then would this not be better? But man, I should have listened to my own communication thing because I took with great pride this thing to my wife. She said, you forgot one. Now, I've already worked out my thing, and she was actually correct in saying there was a 13th one. So nowadays, I call it the 10thing 2-ring plan for a happy marriage, plus the one I forgot to ask my wife. But these things, these clarifying of expectations, this couple took this plan, and they sat together 30 years down the line, which they should have done from the outset. And they took this and they clarified expectations about money and about communication and about grandchildren and about everything they had to do and about lifestyle and helping each other to fulfill each other's life goals. And they were sort of sorted. Other people didn't want to. The worst I've seen is that clarifying expectations on fidelity, there's one marriage that was saved where the husband crooked the wife 60 times sexually. And one marriage failed because they couldn't get over a juicy WhatsApp message. I've seen it all. But they also did not take it. At that specific stage, their one child was getting married. And he married a very innocent young plaas boere farm girl. Man, and we sat clarifying expectations. Now we go down the list of this and money and with sex now. They're too shy to ask these questions. And I said, now, how many times? And he said 3 times a day. And she said, and she said 3 times a month. And he went, and you could see people don't ask these questions. And then, because these things are not being clarified, it causes all the problems. And then once again, I took it, and you can watch on Facebook this specific couple, their second child is born, so this thing is in some way working. And I took it again to my wife and said, listen, my plan is working. I said, Gustav, you actually forgot another thing. It's because even if you do it with newlyweds, it's too late, because then the venue is booked. And now I think we should introduce the concept of marriage preparation while you're still single. Because only then you can clarify expectations, and once you enter into it, you're ready for a marriage. And with this, I just want to say, isn't it time that in relationships, why go for reconciliation if you can go for clarification of expectation? Thank you.